Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Robert Blaine, and I want to talk to you just a little bit about 21st century learners, creativity, what makes them different, and why should we care? First of all, what is technology? Going all the way back to 1829, John Bigelow synthesized the techna, as he called it, which were he rounded up all the courses in the curriculum that dealt with the sciences, architecture, chemistry, metalwork, masonry, manufacturing, and all into one textbook. And this synthesized idea he called technology. What is technology? Technology is anything that was invented after you were born. It's not technology if it was invented before you were born. Think about the electric motor. At one time, the electric motor was the most newfangled thing out there. It was unreliable. You couldn't make it work half the time. But today, an electric motor is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. It is in everything, and we don't even think about it. It's just there. It just works. It's not technology. So how does all of this stuff affect our students? So this is a great quote by John Brealey. A child does not learn from a passive kaleidoscope of experiences, but from the outcomes of actions that he or she has initiated. She's initiating a bunch of neural pruning exercises right now. This child is born with more neural connections than she will ever use. And as she interacts with the world, her brain is actually changing. Her brain is using synaptic connections in an efficient way, and she is developing neural pathways that will last for the rest of her life. So most regions of the brain are formed after the birth. So instead, brain development consists of an ongoing process of wiring and rewiring the connections among neurons. New synapses between cells are constantly being reformed while others are broken or pruned away. This happens throughout life. However, in early childhood, the brain is genetically programmed to produce more synapses than it will ultimately use. Indeed, by 8 months of age, a baby may have an astounding 1,000 trillion synapses in his or her brain. This blooming of synapses happens at different times in different areas of the brain. Development then proceeds by keeping the synapses that are used and pruning away all those that aren't. The pruning of synapses happens over the childhood years as different areas of the brain develop. In the 21st century, our students are graduating into a very different world. The world does not exist as the one that I graduated into. And Richard Florida is one of the people that's talking about the rise of the creative class and the creative economy of the 21st century. This quote is great. Thus, creativity has come to be the most highly prized commodity in our economy. And yet, it is not a commodity. Creativity comes from people, and it animates the social characters that we have imposed on ourselves. We've talked a lot about the silos and how we segment ourselves. All of these things are self-imposed. And creativity is something that moves beyond the silos so that we begin to make the connections between the disciplines. We begin to make the connections that happen across all types of disciplines. Here's a child at play. He has just arrived, and he's the youngest kid there. The other kids are teaching him how to play the game. This is a game called Spit. And what it is a very, very, very fast-paced game. And now you can see he's curious about the game. He's learning the game. He's adaptable. And in the end, he has confidence enough to win. How do we make that for our students? How do we build an environment that enhances curiosity, that promotes adaptability, and gives them confidence? I believe that we have an opportunity to develop creativity in our students. And I truly believe that creativity is something that can be learned. It's not necessarily innate. In the music world, where I come from, we say that I can teach a monkey to play scales. I can't teach a monkey to make music. That's a totally different process. One is simply learning the language. The other side is the ability to communicate through the language. And that's where creativity comes into place. We have some really amazing opportunities. And we can do that through several different mechanisms. I love this idea of flipping the classroom. We take the sage on the stage out of the process, and we let students operate in an atmosphere of intellectual curiosity. We want them to ask questions, and we want to guide their inquiry. Assignments. How many times have you gone to a class and gotten that same old dumb assignment that really doesn't have anything to do with the matter at hand? Has nothing to do with the subject. It's just some rote, trite memorization exercise. Why do you have to memorize when information is ubiquitous? If information is everywhere, it becomes how you use it. So assignments have to be about stretching. How do we get our students to stretch beyond the limits of what they have normally done to stretch farther past to something that they have not done before? How do we get kids to stop thinking like an English major? How do we get them to stop thinking like a computer scientist? How do we get them to stop thinking like a musician or a sociologist or a chemist? How do we just get them to think? Irrespective of the discipline, but to be able to truly think, to analyze, to look at a situation, to pull from all the different knowledges that they have, to synthesize them and bring them together to a new outcome. Finally, how do we make learning play? How do we delve into an environment of intellectual jousting that is fun, that is competitive, that gives kids an opportunity to stretch their limits and shows them no boundaries? Think about the limits of the traditional classroom. What do? We box kids in and we say, this is music theory class. In music theory, you must learn augmented sixth chords. Well, what does that mean? It means nothing unless you're able to use that and talk about, for example, how Beethoven took an augmented sixth chord and he used that chord to describe the French Revolution. Well, now you're actually talking about what that means. When that kid actually plays that augmented sixth chord, it means something. It makes his performance meaningful, and it makes his discourse meaningful. How do we make education truly meaningful? Thank you.